Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Dr. Asir Ajmal, clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and much more. Today, I would like to talk to you about cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavior therapy has one basic assumption, and that is our feelings are determined by our thought. What does that mean? It means simply we feel the way we think. You know how a lot of people, so-called motivational speakers, go on and on about positive thinking? Well, a lot of what they say is hogwash, but some of what they say is essentially true. And that is that we, a lot of the times, make ourselves feel bad by thinking bad things. Albert Ellis, the great psychologist of the 20th century, says that we actively engage in thinking that is irrational, illogical, and it is this illogical and irrational thinking that causes a lot of our emotional disturbances. Let me give you an example of what this principle is. You feel the way you think. You're walking down the street and somebody smacks you on your bottoms with a stick. You feel really angry. You feel humiliated, perhaps, annoyed, irritated. You turn around and you see a blind man with a walking stick. You feel embarrassed. Now, what happened to that initial anger, hostility, the feeling of humiliation, the feeling of embarrassment? Now there is a different kind of embarrassment. Now it is the embarrassment over these angry and hostile thoughts that you were having. So if you think about it, the principle is very simple and very straightforward. Events happen in the outside world. Events happen in our head. Whatever the trigger may be, we respond based on our evaluation of the situation, based on our evaluation of the event. Let me give you another example. There is something we call a reflex action. So somebody flashes a light, a very intense light on your face. You will blink. Now this is what we call a reflex action or a reflex response. This kind of unconditioned reflex or unconditioned response is something that our organism generates without any thinking or without any information processing going on. It is almost as if somebody's pressed a button and switched a light on or off. But most of the events that impinge upon us, most of the stimuli that impinge upon us, most of the events that happen in our surroundings are first evaluated by our minds to see what they mean. They're assessed, they're evaluated, they're processed. And once we know what these events mean, we choose a response. An example is your boss scolds you for coming late every day. You could think, oh, my boss is right. I have been coming late every day for the last 2 weeks. I owe him an explanation. I was being irresponsible. I was being lazy. I was being unprofessional. And therefore, I should correct this behavior at once. All right, so that's one way of thinking. Another way of thinking could be that you might say, oh, my boss doesn't like me very much. I'm more qualified than him. He is insecure around me. He wants me to look bad, and that is why he insulted me in front of all these people. I've had enough of his bull crap, and next time he says anything to me, I'm going to put him in his place, even if it costs me my job. Now think about it. How would you respond if you thought the first way, which is my boss is being reasonable, I was the unprofessional one? You're likely to respond in a much more adaptive, much more professional, much more um, useful way than if you were to believe the latter, which is my boss is jealous of me, he wants to hurt me, I can't take this bullshit anymore, and I'm going to teach him a lesson. Obviously, you're going to respond very differently if you're thinking these latter kinds of thoughts. So what I want to emphasize here is that the situation is almost always processed through our mind first. It is given a meaning. We have a belief that mediates between the event and our behavior or our emotions. I'll give you another example to make this even clearer than before. If you think about um, husband and wife, where the husband comes home and the wife has just come home from work. The husband has just come home from work, and the husband thinks, oh, it's the same old crap. My wife hasn't cooked, she hasn't cleaned, she hasn't made things ready for me. What can I do? Poor me, I'm stuck in this very difficult situation. So that's one kind of very chauvinistic kind of thinking in this environment. He could also be thinking, or I would say alternatively, he could be thinking that, both of us have worked very hard in our respective offices. We've come home and I should be a lot more supportive of my wife. She voluntarily cooks and cleans, and I think I need to be helping her a little bit there. Obviously, your interaction with your wife would be very different in the latter case. So I could go on and on about, sort of different scenarios in the family, but let's think of another situation where you think about your country and you think, oh, I don't like the current leadership. I don't like Donald Trump, or I don't like Imran Khan, or I don't like Vladimir Putin. Doesn't matter where you live. I don't like Modi, for instance. Doesn't matter where you live. There is bound to be a situation that you don't like. There's bound to be a situation that disturbs you in the country. But there are some of us who feel a lot more disturbed than others. Now, if you think about it, the situation for most of us who are not very political or who are not in very highly influential positions, for most of us, the situation is beyond our control. We can't do much about it, except on election times where we can vote for the candidate of our choice. But apart from that, there's not much we can do. So I could sit here and think, oh, this is a terrible situation. It should not be happening. I hate it. I don't like it. It's disturbing me a lot. I can't take this anymore. And you think yourself into a frenzy of anxiety, of agitation, of hostility, of sheer misery. On the other hand, you could think, yes, this is a very, very undesirable situation. I really do not like it very much, but there's not much I can do about it. So instead of getting myself all enraged about the current situation, I'm going to focus on what I can do best, and that is my work. And I would like to be productive and useful. So to summarize, you feel the way you think. I feel the way I think. We all feel the way we think. That should be our motto. And that is my first lecture on cognitive behavior therapy. Thank you. Bye-bye.